Hello, thank you to everyone joining us this afternoon. My name is Morgan Hughes with the South Dakota Specialty Producers Association. Today, we're going to dive into some business development tools that are available to specialty crop producers in South Dakota. In the next hour, we're going to go over business development steps from developing a business plan to approaching lenders. Whether you're a hobbyist looking to start a business or a seasoned farmer wanting to expand, we hope that you take something away from today's webinar. With us this afternoon, we have two speakers. First, we are going to hear from Matty Kerr, Business Development Specialist in Brookings, and also a SDSPA board member, who will share about the Small Business Development Center and key business planning tips and considerations. After that, we will hear from Gail Gullickson, the State Outreach and Communications Coordinator for FSA, about the steps to take after completing your business plan, including going over the 5 C's of credit and more on what financial ratios lenders like FSA or commercial lenders would be looking for when producers approach them to apply. I do just want to note that our ability to host this webinar is supported by a specialty crop block grant that was received through the South Dakota Department of Ag and Natural Resources. We will have time at the for questions at the end, but if participants have them as we go, feel free to drop them in the chat or the Q&A feature. Uh, with that, I'll hand it over to Maddie. So thanks everyone for being here.
And thanks, Morgan, for all of your hard work on this and kind of putting it together for us. Yeah, I'm very excited to get to visit with you a little bit today and kind of tee up what Gail is going to talk about in terms of programs that they maybe have within their wheelhouse. So one of the big things when you are maybe looking at expanding or growing your venture and you come up in a conversation where the concept of a business plan or putting together financial projections come up, that's typically when maybe the Small Business Development Center might get brought up, especially in a case where you're visiting with a lender. So I'm going to get my PowerPoint pulled up here and talk through a little bit of what the South Dakota SBDC system is and how we might be able to help you if you're assessing a project and maybe working through the process with a lender or just determining in general what you might need to grow or expand your operation. In general, the SBDC system is actually a program of the Small Business Administration on the federal level. We're both funded federally and statewide through our South Dakota State Legislature. And really what we are aimed to do is to provide that technical business consulting service. We like to say that we are free and confidential, as well as maybe a best kept secret in the state of South Dakota. But ultimately, what we are there to do as business consultants within the South Dakota SBDC system. I kind of spelled out some of the acronyms because I know I can go a little bit fast and it might be a relatively new concept if you haven't heard of it before. So just wanted you to know what I was referencing. But what we aim to do as business consultants is to come alongside of you and kind of work through those technical components of either verbalizing your ideas and putting it into a business plan, helping you through your financial projections, knowing that your operation is going to be very different from maybe the next specialty producer or someone that's in your field of agriculture. We want to be able to kind of tailor our approach to be able to get you to where you need to go. Whether that is looking at what your break-even point is, trying to understand a little bit of your revenue and forecasting it. Ultimately, we tailor our approach to the individual, and that makes it kind of hard to talk about when we go into programs like this because everyone's business operation is incredibly unique, either based on the stage that you're in, if you're just getting started, or even you're maybe looking to exit your operation, whether that's transitioning it on to the next generation or considering a sell option. To then we work with any industry, everything from retail, food and accommodation services, hospitality, to manufacturing, agriculture. Kind of the one thing that we maybe aren't able to help with necessarily, but we do visit and recommend resources, is kind of anyone working with real estate, right? Anyone that's maybe looking to do rental housing. It gets to be a little bit different conversation, just kind of based on some of the metrics that we have to report. So in general, if we're not able to help you, we probably know one or two resources or people that we can recommend and get you connected with. So some of those primary counseling activities that we really see on a more routine basis when we're visiting with folks is helping them through their business plans. Some folks may come in and are looking to get a loan and have never done a business plan before, even though they've been in operation for 5+ years. Don't let business plans scare you. I'm going to get into a little bit more detail in those in a second, but that's one of the things that we really help with. Generally, too, getting started all across the board. Everything from how do I get registered with the Secretary of State's office as a legal business entity to how do I obtain a employee identification number with the IRS so that I can open up a business account at whatever bank I may be working with. We see a lot of that pure startup of people that have an idea, they validated it, and they're looking to take those next steps to formalize it. Another huge part of the routine counseling that we do is helping to develop financial projections. We work in a regional model, and I'll get into that in just a second here when I click into our SBDC South Dakota Business Help website and kind of show you how you can get in contact with your business consultant in the area that you're in. We work very routinely with the lenders in our area and regions, typically because they are in need of someone that can kind of help validate the projections or the cash flow that a business is coming in with. So we have a very detailed spreadsheet that actually our state director put together, and we have the honor of getting to use to kind of help you catalog and put into certain categories, whether that is, your recurring expenses, your financial obligations through debt service, and maybe existing historical financials that you have. We're able to combine all of that into one very lengthy series of a pro forma that shows you like a 3-year projection. I'm someone that's kind of a nerd about numbers, so I highly enjoy this. It's one of the things that lights me up about it, and I know it's also maybe one of the things that can seem a little scary or daunting. So it's one of the areas that I truly enjoy getting to work with clients on, and I bet a lot of my colleagues would say the same thing. Some of the other things that we see more frequently would be related to just general market research and kind of validating if there is a need, understanding the potential for what opportunities could be out there in whatever industry or line of work your business idea is in. To then, I need help with marketing and how do I get the word out about what I'm doing? So those are a couple of the areas. We work with all sorts of areas from government contracting, intellectual property, getting started with manufacturing. There's kind of nothing that we wouldn't take a conversation about. Like I said earlier, we may not be experts in everything. That's kind of a little hard for us to be, but we probably know who the experts are and we'll get you connected. I'd like to open up our SD business website. I already actually have it open already, and I'm going to make sure that you are seeing it. So if you were to click on SD Business Help or were to just Google South Dakota Small Business Development Center, it's going to pull up this website. We like to have the domain be pretty easy so that folks can remember it. This is what the main page looks like. Like I said, we work pretty closely with some of these programs that may deal more specifically with things like manufacturing or government contracting. But what you're going to be looking for is this navy and red logo that says America's SBDC South Dakota. So this is kind of just our main page. I will say we are working on updating our website. So if it looks a little bit different, if you're maybe pulling this up in several months, don't be surprised. But the main tool that I want to show you that is key if you don't know where to get started or you don't know the contact or maybe don't get a specific contact from your lender that you're working with, you want to go to the Contact Us page, have it on SBDC, and then click through the county. So I'm just going to use Brookings as an easy example. And there you go. Your business consultant in your region and area contact information would come up. If you're maybe in a scenario where you're a little bit larger county, there could be 2 people. feel free to contact whoever. They're going to get you taken care of depending on the office. So going to close that for now and keep moving along. So some of the things that you can expect in a general business consulting session with an SBDC counselor for the first time is they ultimately want to know like what your idea is and how they can help. The processes are going to look a little bit different based on the office or person that you're specifically working with, but it's going to be a series of questions just to maybe get an idea of where are you at, what is your specific need, so that they're able to kind of chart out an action plan with you to get you the resources or work with you on developing some of the materials that you need to continue with your business idea, whether that is initially getting started or growing and expanding. I use a little bit of like the Small Business Administration's 10 steps to start your business website. I'm also waiting for that to pull up. And what I'm going to talk to you about specifically with this is kind of just steps 1 through 3 real quick today to tee up Gail's part of the presentation. I like this framework because often when clients come in, they're maybe saying like, I have an LLC started. I am in the process of getting my EIN. So I'm able to open up a business bank account. Maybe for us to kind of talk a little bit more about their idea, and it might not be feasible. So I like this because first, this framework wants you to validate your idea and make sure that things make sense. More than likely, those of you that are going to be watching this, you've validated your idea and you might have been in business for a while. So in terms of conducting market research, it would be really important to understand like what is the potential market for whatever you're working through, whatever product or good that you're kind of growing or selling. What sector of agriculture you're in, because understanding that market analysis and research component can obviously help you know how to best position yourself, what competitors might exist, and kind of just hedge your bets a little bit with maybe some of that forecasting that comes into play with revenue. To then writing your business plan. That's probably where I'm going to speak the most today, and just kind of how you formalize what you're doing into a document, and then kind of leading into funding your business. So to jump back to my presentation, let's talk about kind of how you would develop a business plan. Again, this is kind of what I just talked through of like really going to focus on those steps 1 through 3 today. So ultimately with a business plan, don't let it scare you, like I said, because what you're doing is just putting pen to paper on your idea. Depending on how clients are maybe feeling when they come in, I like to say anyone should be able to pick up your business plan and kind of understand the basic what you're doing, how you're doing it, where you're doing it, and some of the costs that are involved in it. And definitely maybe who's involved in it as well if you're a little bit bigger operation and have a variety of personnel. So it's putting what you're doing on paper so that those folks that are maybe in a lending scenario can kind of understand what makes your idea work, what makes it unique, what maybe gives you that competitive advantage that can kind of just help strengthen your case in a lending scenario. Those key sections of a business plan really are kind of like the analysis, strategy, management, marketing, and sales piece. It should be a living document as well. Our business plans are not meant to be static. I love to maybe bring up the concept of if you're not growing, you're dying. And that's kind of the same thing. If you haven't dusted off your business plan in a little bit, if you do have one formalized and written right now, it might be a good idea to maybe take a good review of that and kind of see, is it relevant to how your operation is actually happening today? So to get to the examples, we'll hop back to that SBA website and talk through some of what they share about whether you do a little bit of a lean business plan, which is a little bit more slim, to the traditional long form. What I like to encourage clients to do if they're actively in a lending situation where they kind of have to produce a business plan as a part of documentation in a financing situation, ask their lender. I encourage them to ask their lender what their lender is looking for with a business plan, because certainly you don't have to do more work than maybe what you need to in this. And you want to make sure that you hit the mark. Just like thinking back to grade school, high school, maybe, if you get asked to answer or you get asked a question on a test, you want to make sure that you answer it accurately. And that's kind of how I encourage clients to get an idea for what their financial institution or lending agency that they're working with is looking for in a business plan. But on this SBA website, they kind of talk through the two formats of the traditional long business plan, which is much more detailed, is going to have a lot of those sections in there, to then a little bit more of a lean startup. So we'll see if this opens up. With business plans too, they can vary in length. There's kind of no set page number to the amount that you should have of a business plan. It's more about, are you able to accurately talk about your business kind of in those primary sections. So they're looking for a company description, right? Because they want to know like what you're doing and what you stand for, what you're about. To the market research component, very important to understand what the appetite is in your industry or specific like product segment. You don't have to go incredibly detailed in some of this information, though if you want to, absolutely. I would cheer you on in that process if I was your business consultant. Talking a little bit about your product offering or kind of what goods and services you have from the service line, to then even the marketing and sales strategy. Incredibly important. If I could emphasize one section, it's this of how are you actually going to get from goods, right? Products that you're making or possibly like manufacturing to the point of an actual transaction where people are going to give you money in exchange for what you're putting out there in the market. So then a shorter version definitely looks a little bit more trim of those kind of same headers that you're seeing in a long form, with a little bit less detail. So there's kind of no wrong way to do a business plan besides not doing it in that case. Additionally, with business plans, I did want to show you like another version that's becoming a little bit more commonplace with a short form, and that would be a business model canvas. So it's a little bit more open. This company Strategizer kind of helped to develop the tool, but looks exactly like how it sounds, of a canvas, a kind of filling out the like, what key activities is your business doing, a value proposition of why would people want to buy your particular good or products, what sales channels or distribution routes do you have, your costs that are going to be involved, any of like your key resources. You can search on whatever engine on the internet you like about a business model canvas, and you're going to find a lot of really good information, both from websites that have some articles that you can read to even videos that go into a little bit more in depth in explaining that. Now, the other area that we help with quite a bit is that financial component. So we're able to put together a 3-year set of projections, and those are really fun depending on the project. Like I said, I highly enjoy this section, so I'll kind of do my best to talk through it without maybe showing you specifically what that spreadsheet looks like. But ultimately, we want to take anything that you know about the expenses or costs that are going to be involved in buying supplies, your inputs to get to the end product or service, and any sort of machinery, equipment, equity, assets that you have involved, to then the kind of sales side of it or revenue of what are you selling, what are those numbers, putting those together then to understand what a profit margin would be, and possibly layering in any sort of like financing or equity injection that kind of helps make your project work or cash flow. So really what we look at is if you're an existing business, what historical examples do you have to kind of validate those revenue projections? So sales numbers, even if you have kind of ballpark gross numbers, we can work through that. This Talking about financial projections and who you would specifically work with too in the SBDC system is probably a little bit more nuanced based on the individual, but the component of understanding what you're going to need to get started from a startup expense standpoint, what are those recurring expenses? So ongoing monthly bills or seasonal bills tied to production, any of the equipment or routine things that you kind of have to invest in to make your business operate in a calendar year or kind of fiscal year. That's what we're looking for with recurring expenses. It might not be a specific expense that happens, every single month of a projection, but what are those things that go into actually making your product? So, other financial terms we could use to kind of pull in to talk about that would be, what are your fixed or variable expenses? Um, and then, depending on the scenario, right, if you're looking at just trying to understand your cash flow and a break-even standpoint, or if you're looking at, I'm looking to, invest in a piece of machinery or equipment, and I want to understand if I'm going to be able to make that payment and also cash flow my business and just kind of where my profit margin ends up. That are maybe some of the ways that I enjoy using our financial spreadsheet, is to kind of help producers or any sort of business owner or leader that comes in, what that break-even point is. Ultimately, what we're trying to do, to kind of tee Gail up here as she gets into talking a little bit about the financial programs and services they can offer, is we want to make sure and kind of help you validate through reasonable assumptions or critical assumptions, any sort of market data that we can pull in, any sort of historical information we can pull in, that your idea cash flows and that you make money. Because ultimately, a financial institution or lending agency is going to care if you can pay back whatever sort of loan or debt that you have taken out from them. That ultimately is kind of what they want to know, and the interest involved in that too. So I don't, Gail, maybe don't listen to this part, but kind of beyond some of the more commonplace financial institutions to what we work with our clients is just really helping them understand like what they have access to from a funding perspective. Of there are so many ways to fund a project that can kind of make clients head spin on occasion, but it's also kind of interesting just based on the project too. So if you need any sort of business consulting help, or you want to visit through a project that you're maybe considering, please get in touch with a counselor within the SBDC system. Go to sdbusinesshelp.com, kind of search by your county to see who that next best contact is. If you want a little bit of direct help and you want me to introduce you to one of the clients, or not clients, excuse me, consultants within our state, I'd be happy to do that. At the end of the day, what we like to say is that we're here to help you, and we absolutely want to do that because we want to see you succeed, as well as your business idea, your community, our state. We're just really here to kind of be those cheerleaders and person-to-person assistance.
Awesome. Thank you, Maddie. That's really great information for producers and any business owner. And so once producers are able to kind of have that business plan, then they can approach lenders or Gail. And so Gail, next, I'm hoping you can share with us more about the FSA resources.
Sounds good. That was great. I'm trying to share. If I get a thumbs up from one of you when my screen pops up, Morgan.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, Maddie. Yeah, that was so good. I enjoy that when I get to visit with Maddie and hear more from her and what she does. I think it's such a great place to start. And then there's other resources. And just like she mentioned, she may help with certain things, and then she'll have resources other people she'll may do a soft handoff to and hand you to other things. So a few of the things I just want to walk through today. I have quite a few slides, but not a lot of information. So we'll talk, and I'm happy to answer questions. It's just, I'm so glad to have the opportunity. So thank you, Morgan, and your team, to just talk about some of the financing tools and information that we would have when we're talking business development. And I've been doing this over 30 years, 32 years, and have enjoyed being able to help producers like all types of operations, whatever that looks like, whether it's specialty crop producers like you all, farming, ranching, however that looks, really to secure financing to get started or expand. And when you hear me say the word farm today, just know like that's a really broad term. I just say that because that's what we're used to, but it can be any type of production ag. It could be growing vegetables. It could be honey. It could be dairy goat milk that you're raising. So we really have programs for all sizes and types of operation, including specialty crop production. But here's kind of what today's discussion is going to look like. After the introduction to some financing resources, because that was brought up just to tell you what we might have available at our doors, I'm going to talk about preparations for your first visit and discussing those important 5 C's of credit and the finance scorecard that I have to share with you. Finally, I'm going to show you some online tools, and we'll walk through those online at farmers.gov if we do have time, because I enjoyed seeing Maddie's online when she can show us, and I hope I can show you some things online as well. That would be good online tools for you. And then, of course, if there's time, there's questions, but I always encourage you to put things in the chat and I know Morgan will watch that if there happens to be any questions. So as a farmer, rancher, or specialty crop grower, whether you are just starting out or, like Maddie said, you may have many years of experience, there are times when you need to borrow money to either start, expand, or sustain, or maybe make some changes to your business. And so from beginning farmers who have limited financial history to qualify for commercial credit, to those producers who have suffered financial setbacks from natural disasters, we have a variety of loans to provide those additional resources farmers and ranchers like yourself and specialty crop producers are going to need to establish and maintain profitable operations. Maddie brought that. We're going to talk a little bit more about how you determine if your operation is profitable. And our direct loan programs are going to assist you with temporary financial assistance. And we want to get you to a point where you improve your financial position so that you can secure credit from commercial lenders. So let's consider these questions. Just like they sound. Do you want to buy or lease a farm or ranch or some sort of operation? What do you need? Do you need to buy things like tractors, livestock, irrigation pipes, maybe a greenhouse? I put that in. What is that your operation, your farm or ranch going to look like? Maybe you already own or rent something, but you need to expand. Or unfortunately, we've had a lot of this around here we've gone through drought in years, and then we've had flooding and storms. Have you been impacted? Maybe your operation's been impacted by a natural disaster. If you answered yes to any of those questions, you may want to apply for a loan from FSA. And then these are the types of loans we have available for eligible borrowers. And before you apply, you need to decide what type of loan you need. So just to highlight these, the farm ownership loans are kind of like it sounds. It's to purchase or expand your farm or ranch or those acres, whatever that would look like, a site to raise your commodity. Operating loans are used to purchase things like the equipment or maybe even livestock or pay for those annual operating expenses. There were some of those mentioned on Maddie's slides, like rent. Do you always need to pay cash rent for the acres where you're going to grow your crops or your commodity? What does that look like? What's something you always pay every year? Do you need to buy seed to grow your vegetables? And then FSA developed the microloan program to better serve the unique financial operating needs of folks like you, like the small beginning farmer or rancher, the niche and non-traditional farm operations, and then emergency loans. Those are going to be loans we'd use if you needed some help recovering from natural disasters. And finally, our youth loans are available to 4-H and FFA members to start or expand an income-producing ag-related project. And you may need to apply for actually more than a loan. You're not limited at the same time for different purposes, and that's okay. You just want to visit with your loan official and see what is the best fit for you. And so with limited time today, though, I'm just going to focus on the microloans, and I'll tell you why here. So as I said, these are really developed, this special program, which you can see as 50,000 or less, for that unique kind of financial operating needs, maybe these special type operations. With the maximum being 50,000, the application for these is simpler, requiring it's less paperwork, which is consistent with like doing a small loan amount. And requirements too are a little bit less for managerial experience, things like that. Loan security have been modified to accommodate veterans, small farm operations, and beginning producers. So this is a really great place to start if you are looking for financing for your specialty crop operation. And you could have a combination of these. You could have a $10,000 operating loan under a microloan that you need to purchase some equipment for your operation to produce the crops or the vegetables, let's say, or put up a high tunnel or do some costs with that. And then you might need a $5,000 loan to pay for some annual expenses. As long as those don't total under 50,000, you would still be in the microloan program. On this next slide, though, just to summarize those other programs that I talked about in our loan amounts, Eligible borrowers can get up to $600,000 for the farm ownership. So that's the actual purchase of the real estate, purchase of the spot, might be for construction of buildings, those sorts of things could be included. The $400,000 is what you can get for direct operating. That's a cumulative, and these are totally separate. So you could have $600,000 in farm ownership, you could have $400,000 in operating. So that's $1 million. Just a combination of those loans. Youth loan borrowers, we're at $10,000 for those loans, and then we talked about the microloan being $50,000, and it's $50,000 is out of that operating loan limit of $400,000. So you can't get $450,000. It's just this microloan is a special program that we have, and that's what we call it if you're under the $50,000 or less. And it's any outstanding principal at any one time. So like I said, you can get multiple loans in each category as well, as long as they're not over that limit. So the interest you pay on loans, now we're going to get into some more of this on financing, is the cost of borrowing money, right? That's how you look at it. It's going to cost you money to borrow from somebody. And that little difference is the interest rate. Our interest rates are updated monthly. And so you can see for farm loans approved in or closed in September, we're a little under 5% for operating loans and a little under 6% for farm ownership. We do have a special rate, if you see here in the middle, microloan to beginning farmers and ranchers, if you're just getting started out, of 5%. So if this operating loan rate was higher than that, we actually wouldn't go any higher than 5% for you. So, and once that loan is closed with FSA financing, our interest rate is fixed for the life of the loan. So that may be something you want to be asking when you go to commercial credit, to a lender, or whatever your financing options are, making sure you understand that how much that money is going to cost you to borrow and what that looks like. Like, is there a variable rate that they're going to change the rate every year or every 5 years? And just make sure you understand some of that financial component, the cost to borrow the money. One more financing option, though, or opportunity from FSA I want to share about before we really dig into some ratios, is the opportunity for your operation to have the farm storage facility loan program. And just like it sounds, again, it's low interest financing for producers to store, handle, or transport commodities they produce. So again, that needs to be something you're producing. So if you're producing a bunch of melons or vegetable production, whatever that looks like, berries, and then you're turning them into wine or jam or whatever, it's something you actually raise. It isn't something that you purchase and bring into your operation. So it's just different thing. Grains, rye, hay, honey, fruits, vegetables, floriculture, milk, cheese, eggs, meat and poultry, unprocessed, any of those sorts of things that you're raising. So I said, like eggs, if you have a large eggs production, you could look at getting a low interest loan for us for this. I did put some of the eligible facility types and equipments on here. One thing to note is a cold storage. So whatever that looks like, could be a walk-in cooler, it could be freezers. What do you need to store your commodity that you're raising? And other things like for handling it, what about the refrigerated trucks down here in the corner, right? So if you need a refrigerated truck to haul your vegetables to the farmer's market, or maybe you're marketing to a local grocery store, again, as long as you're producing that, we have this low interest loan program, rather simple. I'm not only details I'm going to get into, so I just ask you to reach out to your local office or myself if you have other questions. But we certainly have some opportunities, and we have some of those loans where we've done that, where we will help with that. Maybe sorting bins is another thing. Lots and lots of options. Bulk tanks for your milk, all sorts of things. And so just the one thing to note here, though, is something like a facility that would be built for commercial purposes and not the sole use of the borrower are not eligible for financing. So keep that in mind. It's something that we want to help you as you're storing and transporting your commodities. Okay, so more questions to start thinking about your business plan, which I'm so glad Matty kind of kicked it off of her developing it. For our purposes, we don't have requirements at FSA that you need to bring us a written business plan. But as you can see, the things we're going to talk about, it's helpful to have things in writing. Start gathering that information. Okay, so answering these types of questions with us or any loan official, these are the types of things that they're going to want to know about. So what does your operation look like? What do you have? What will you need to operate your farm, your ranch, your specialty crop operation? What's that look like? What are your plans for marketing your product? And that was brought up as well when she talked. So there's going to be some discussion on goals as well, short and long-term goals, because we are in this FSA for your success. And I think that's why SDBC can be such a great partner with our agricultural type producers like yourself and specialty crop producers, because we are in this for your success. And that's what it's all about. What programs and what opportunities do we have to help you be successful? And then the last one there, your income and expense projections. That's an important part of discussion. And she brought that up, knowing how much are these things costing you, the cash flow, what's coming in and out of your operation for cash. So the credit worthiness. All lenders are going to determine if you are credit worthy. Should they loan you the money? Meaning, should they give you the credit? And this is called credit worthiness. I'm going to review the 5 C's of credit next, but just a reminder that all lenders, including FSA, will order a credit report. And while FSA does not make an approval decision based solely on a credit score, like if it's a 600 or a 700 or 740 or whatever, but we will look at the past credit history and the payment schedules, the past due accounts. What has your overall history been? So it's really, really important to pay your bills on time each month, to have good credit. That's what all lenders are going to be looking at as well to determine, are you credit worthy? So let's talk about the 5 C's. We hear a lot about it, and I hope today we can share and you'll learn a little bit more about it. Not a lot to it. You can see I only put it in one screen, but this just walks you through the things that a lender is going to look at, consider, talk about, us as well, when we're looking at applications. So first is capacity. Do you have the capacity to fit this new payment into your budget? And that's one thing that Matty brought up. She would look at, if you wanted to buy some new equipment, is there room for you to make the payment? And what is your source of that repayment? Hopefully cash from the business, right, is what you'd want to have the capacity to pay that. So what's your source? And next, we're going to look at capital. So do you have any extra assets on hand? Or what other money or capital do you personally have? Meaning what is available that you're offering for the loan as well, which takes you into collateral. All loans need collateral. What do you have for assets currently that you could use the lender could use to secure that loan? Okay. Lenders are also going to look at conditions. That's the status of your operation and the current market that may affect this credit decision that they're making. What is happening in the current market right now? What are some indicators or some conditions, things that would be happening that might affect the credit? And then finally, lenders consider character of the applicant or borrower. And remember when I said it was important to pay your bills on time when we were talking? Have you had steady and reliable payment? Another way to look at it is your history can be used to predict the future. So it's really important that you're being mindful of how you're using your credit and being reliable to be making those payments. That speaks loudly to your credit, to your character, that it's important for you to manage your credit well. Okay, so let's talk about some of the numbers. Matty says she likes numbers. I do too. I have a degree in ag business. I've been working loans and numbers for years and years and years. So the University of Minnesota Extension has created a farm finance scorecard. I can show you. It used it for years. The farm finance scorecard kind of helps you see where you are in terms of financial measurements and ratios. And there's many different ones that are associated with each of these, but I'm just going to highlight a few on the next few slides from each category. And then I'm going to share the link to their website as well so that you could pull up and kind of figure out what your own financial scorecard looks like. So the first financial ratio is liquidity. And liquidity is essentially the ability of your farm business to meet financial obligations as they come due. So to generate enough cash to pay your family living expenses and taxes and debt payments on time. Remember, I said how important it is that you're paying things on time when they become due. So ways to measure your operations business liquidity is the current ratio, which current again is within the 12 months. It's kind of a year time frame. you're going to divide the current assets by the current liabilities. So meaning if your current assets were sold tomorrow, would they pay off the current farm liabilities? Okay, that includes cash and any items that you'd maybe convert to cash within like that 1 year. And so also, and you can see a 2.0 or more is strong. That means you've got, let's put it in dollar terms, $2 of assets sitting here, current assets that could be sold in this next year for every dollar of debt that's currently owing in the next 12 months. So you want that number to be higher. 2 and above is strong. It means you have double, essentially, a 2 of what you would owe. So working capital, which is actually a dollar amount, it's not as a ratio or anything with a decimal. It tells us the operating capital available in the short term from within your business. Okay, it's a measure of dollars, not ratio. And just like it sounds, you're just going to take those current liabilities. So who do you owe? And you're going to take it away from all the assets that you own. This is really looking at things going on in the next, few months up to a year. The next measurement to look at is solvency. Solvency is the ability of your business to pay all of its debts if all business assets were sold tomorrow. Okay, it's important in evaluating the financial risk and borrowing capacity of your business. So a couple ratios there. The first one is the debt to asset ratio. That compares, just like it sounds, your total farm or your total operation business debt to your total farm assets. And it's just going to be figured by dividing those two. So I want to give you an example. So like if you took that number and the figure was 34, so I'd put it in a percent. 34% is your debt to asset ratio. That would mean that for every $1 of asset that you own, you owe 34 cents against it. So hopefully that makes sense to say you want that number to be lower because that shows less financial risk. And then you have more borrowing capacity to go to the bank and take that equity to asset ratio I have listed there, which is the difference, and say, I have this much of assets that I could borrow against. And if you add them up, those two numbers would come to 100%. So these are some easy things for you to just as a snapshot on your balance sheet, which is listing, your assets, what you own, and your debt, who you owe, doing some, kind of how they relate to each other. And again, just putting things in dollar terms. If you looked at that, if you started to get into 60 to 70 debt asset ratio or higher, it doesn't leave you much borrowing capacity. So it's important to pay your debts, pay down your debts, and get your debt under control. A couple more here. We've talked about those indicators on the balance sheet, right? Again, I said, what you own, which is your assets, and what you owe or who you owe your debt. So let's talk about the operations profitability. And this is going to come from your income statement. So profitability is the difference between the value of goods produced. And Matty talked about that. What are you producing? What is it? Is it a widget? What is that thing that you have? Okay, whether it's a business or is it calves? Is it tomatoes? What's that looks like? And then that's the difference between that and the cost of what you're using those resources to actually produce that product. Okay, so your net farm income is your measure of profitability. And that's just like it sounds, a net farm income. Taking the value, your income you're getting from your goods, and what did it cost you? That is a net farm income, and it's expressed as a dollar amount. But then let's go to the rate of return on farm assets. This one can be something that can be an eye opener for you. So this can be thought of kind of the interest rate that your farm operation has earned in the last year on all the money you have invested in it. In other words, are your assets generating enough income? And so, just think about what you have out there for assets. And if you are not generating, I have percentages on here and you'll see this on your finance card for examples. Do you need to get those assets to work more for you? Are you owning equipment or different things like that you're not getting a strong enough return on, is not helping your operation be profitable? And finally, what I want to talk about, again, putting this in dollar terms, is the operating profit margin. That's going to show the efficiency of your business. And we do this, we can do this with farm producer, specialty crop, probably any business to go, hey, what this is saying, let's say it takes you 75 cents of every dollar of expenses, that's your cost to produce a dollar worth of product. That leaves you 25 cents, right? 25%. So let's put it in dollar and cents terms, 25 cents. And so you would have 25 cents of profit to pay your bills, for your living expenses, and make your payment. So that's pretty good. You need the number to be that and higher. Because what if for some reason, efficiency wise, you were realizing your costs, you were spending like, let's say 93% or 93 cents of expenses to get a dollar product sold. That leaves you with 7 cents to make your payments, pay your taxes, and to live, like your family living expenses and all that. So that's not much. So you can see why you want this profit margin to be a larger number. And I'm throwing out lots of numbers, but I hope what you're learning here is to try to put these into terms and break it down to look at your operation, your numbers, and then as a dollar, and then look at the side of that, go, yeah, if I'm spending that much on expenses, if I can do some things differently here, I may make more money, which would help me reduce my debt, which would help me pay down my debt and have a better debt to asset ratio, and I could borrow more. It's all in an effort to build a successful operation. And so just as we're going through this, you're going to want, like, obviously the larger profit margin. We're all in this for businesses or when you operate to make a profit, right? We are hoping and wanting you to be successful and have some dollars in income to build and grow. So I hope you're starting to see how important it is to know these numbers and be able to analyze your operation. Fourth or the fifth one here is repayment capacity. Can you repay the loan? Does your cash flow statement show that you have the ability to repay your debt payments on time? And we talked about the importance of that again. Do you know your numbers? It includes, though, the non-farm income. So it's not really a measure of your business performance alone. Remember, those are some of the things we talked about, like the efficiency and profitability on the last screens. But just there's a couple ways you can look at this. So your term debt coverage ratio, it is expressed as a decimal, but I'm going to tell you again why you would look at this a decimal or like 100%. It tells whether your business produced enough income to cover all the term debt payments, okay, intermediate and long term that you would have. So if this figure is adequate at 1, it's like 100%. Yep, we can cover 100% of our payments. Okay, that's great. And that's right on the money, 100%, but you have nothing to spare. So let's just say it was less than 1%, less than 100%. That means the ability to pay is not adequate. And similarly, though, if you go the opposite and it's over 1 or over 100%, that's great. That means there's room to spare as well in case there were things that were to come up or disasters or other unforeseen circumstances. So obviously with this, you want this to be 100% or 1 or above. That's a minimum of what you want to see is 1 a lender would be looking at, because that's where we're looking at. Can you repay this? What's that ratio look like? Last is efficiency. That's what we're going to talk about. So how efficient is your operation? Past performance of the business could well indicate potential future accomplishments. And remember, I said a while back, we use your past to predict the future. So efficiency is going to answer this question. Are you using every available asset to its fullest potential? If a producer purchased like a nice new tractor, maybe the size was not right for his operation, so it kind of sat in the shed unused. Is that good use of that asset? Was it being used to generate any income? Or if you only used it twice for digging like 15 acres, is that using the asset to its fullest potential? So there are several efficiency measures. The asset turnover rate that I have listed is just a measure of efficiency of using your capital. It's the amount of gross production per dollar of investment, meaning your gross income versus those assets. What do you have invested in this as an asset turnover rate? Just like it sounds, how quickly are we turning those assets into income? So you want to be generating a high level of production with a low level of capital investment, right? With lower assets. And on the other hand, though, if that turnover rate is low, you need to explore ways to use your capital more efficiently, or consider selling some of those low return investments. And you aren't going to know these things until you start really digging into that financial statement and your income statement, your cash flow, to find out and putting some numbers of your own into these types of ratios that we've been talking about. So here is what I will see if I can copy and paste. Oh, it won't let me on my thing here. Oh, it's taking me to that. Sorry. I was going to put it in the chat, Morgan. So I hope that works, because oops, and yes, I can. I know it's a safe one. Skip verification. Because you could download this form, and I mean, I'm always like, I have it here. I highly don't, even though it says farm finance, you are doing a farm, especially crop. You're a farmer, you're just a small specialty farmer. But many of these things will be very, very helpful, and you can download. Oh, I don't know if it's still showing on the screen. Morgan, do you see the farm finance?
Yep,
Or did it go away?
we see the website. I'm trying to find the URL so I could put it in the chat. But we see the website still.
Okay, I'm going to try it and see if Gail can get it in the chat. I just copied it from, I want it to go to everyone. And I'm going to paste. And I sent. Okay, so it should be in the chat. Sorry about that. But this is just kind of a little snippet of kind of what it looks like. See, then what you can do, and for a year, you can put your own numbers in here. And when you download that whole thing, it will tell you the ratios and how to get to it. So don't worry about remembering those. It's all included. Okay. But I've used this many times, just working with applicants and borrowers to see where their operation is at. Because you know what? Numbers don't lie. They tell the story. And so I think that's really important to remember as we kind of look to wrap up the next few things here, if I have some time to show our online tools. Are there any questions? I'm not seeing anyone. I popped in the chat, but I'll share a few last things I want to show, so folks who go back and are, if you're watching this and can kind of follow along. So we've had this significant initiative at FSA underway to streamline and automate our farm loan program, like customer-facing business processes for you all. And this loan assistance tool, it's on farmers.gov, which is a great place to go for all sorts of information, but is where you can go and check on your eligibility for farm loans, because I only just did a high level overview today. You know, a kind of a 10,000 foot view of what it looks like. And then you can discover other loan products, and then it'll take you right to where you could actually apply online. And this is what it looks like. You'd find a farm loan quiz there. I'll go through and I just kind of put some other farm loan tools that we have here. You can get an online account, farmers.gov account, how to apply for loans, a disaster assistance discovery tool for anyone. If you did have, or you had some flooding, you're able to go and check that out as well. I want to show you this page though, and I have it up because this starting a farm, and it just ties in so perfectly with the things that Matty talked about, because we have this whole thing here on planning your farm operation and tools for you that I think if I can get it back up. Okay, and hopefully you'll see this website.
Yes.
You got it. Okay. So this is on farmers.gov, and it's our new farmers page. So you find it here by going, look at this. We got stuff here for your business. And what are the types of things you want to do with your business? Maintain, sell your products, just all sorts of different things. This is USDA. It's farm production and conservation. And then you can go to how to start a farm. And so similarly, some of the products you're going to find in features and resources really can tie together when you use some free technical resources like Matty at the SDBC or any of their consultants to start getting the farm going, or your operation. Again, when I use the term farm, please don't think that has to be, 100 acres with a beautiful red barn and, 50 cows and 1,000 acres of corn. It's whatever your farm looks like. We can go down to just small, inches by inches, to certify and get you a farm of what you're raising or growing. But then as you go through this, you can click on these. So it starts here. There's different resources for you, webinars that you can watch on here on different opportunities. So I know we've got just a couple minutes left. I wanted to just show you that same thing, building your business, but planning your farm. If you click on these little boxes, and I gotta watch it spin. Okay, build a farm business plan. Why do you need this? It acts as a guide. Like, this is some of the similar stuff. So if we have resources and we can help you, that's what we want to do. FSA as well, to get you started. And then we may partner or have another commercial lender involved as well and get you to that point where you're getting commercial credit. Right here, look at this, building the business plan. You can click on these and have it help you get going as well, and then get help with it. SCORE is another nonprofit that's also through Small Business Administration. So just some really good resources and tools that you can find online. And I will close out of that so I can make sure and share my contact information. If you are looking to get started though, farmers.gov, at the bottom of the page, there is a service center locator. I always encourage you to find a local USDA service center or FSA office, reach out to them, or you can contact me as well. There's lots of other resources on farmers.gov, and then that is me. So as I wrap up, like obviously our goal is just to help you grow, right, and graduate to other credit. And keep in mind those 5 C's that we talked about: character, capital, collateral, conditions, which like the market, and capacity, your ability to repay. Kind of review and understand your credit report, your cash flow, all of your farm finances, and then prepare a plan, and let's set your operation up for success. So thank you to Matty and Morgan and Specialty for let me talk and share and join in your conversation today. So I don't know if there's any more questions for me, but that is all I wanted to share. But there is my information, so folks can reach out to me at any time, or Morgan knows how to get in touch with me as well.
Yeah, no questions in the chat yet, but if anyone has questions, you can drop them in the chat or the Q&A feature, and I'm keeping an eye on that for the last couple minutes. But I'm curious, Gail, you mentioned quite a few resources in the beginning and then kind of got specific, but I'm wondering what FSA resources are available all year long, and what is like seasonal application deadlines? Are those set? Okay. That type of thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because some of USDA agencies do have application timeframes. For instance, a sister agency, NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service. They have great programs that would fit in as well. Environmental Quality Incentive Program, EQIP, and Cost Share, CSP. That's a batching period, October 3rd. FSA programs, like our loan programs, are available all the time. The only thing that might hold us back would be the funding situation. Like sometimes, since we really are relying on literally an active cars to get our dollars, we just may have to put in a waiting list. But the funding has been very, very favorable for us. So there isn't a time frame that I have to say we only do applications January, February, March. No, we can take applications 365 days a year for any of our loans. The farm storage loan programs as well, marketing assistance loans. We're going to have those rolling out for the crop year. We're expecting big harvest. So we're expecting a lot of those. Some of our disaster programs, though, on our farm program side, Morgan, some of those do have actual deadlines. So that's where, if they could sign up, and I should have had on here for our e-news, go to farmers.gov, scroll to the bottom, and get signed up for e-news. I can't believe I didn't have that slide in here. I almost always do. You've heard me before, Morgan, talk about that. But yes, getting folks signed up to be able to get what is available in their local county, and then the dates and deadlines, because some of those are specific, just like NRCS would have batching periods. But the loan program, no, what we typically see, obviously, farm production in the winter, people are planning, because in South Dakota, we're not doing anything with crops. We may be calving and lambing and whatever, but that's a good time when people are planting here. What are they going to plant for vegetables? So that's an increased time of production, of working through applications throughout the winter to make sure they're set and ready to go and have their financing or whatever their project is. But that's typically, if you look at a cycle, like you're going to plant your crops, especially crops in the spring, right? And through that, we'd want to get them set up. But yeah, good question. I didn't cover that.
And I encourage everybody to go sign up for their e-news, but Gail, you're always great about sharing things with me to send out to our growers. So chances are, however you heard about this webinar, you also might see some FSA or funding resources come through there as well. Matty, I'm curious. Obviously today we're talking about funding, so that's very like lender specific. But do the Small Business Development Center consultants have experience with grant writing as well? Like if someone was interested in applying for a grant for their business, would you all have expertise in that area as well?
That may be one that might be a little bit more nuanced. We probably can't specifically help with that, but I bet we could recommend someone in that area that could. Yeah, we try not to necessarily do things for our clients, just to kind of set expectations there. But absolutely, we're going to always try to be the best resources and connectors, I should say, to any other resource providers out there.
Awesome. I imagine you would at least be pretty helpful with the budget piece of those applications and kind of reviewing that. So
Absolutely.
I don't see any other questions that have come through the chat, just some good links from Gail. And so thank you again to both of our speakers and the attendees that joined us this afternoon.